This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
We're not close to a cure, so what do we have instead? We have community. So let's bolster our community because we are who we have.
Caring for aging parents or other loved ones while working, raising children, and trying to live your own life? Wondering how to find the time for your personal health and happiness? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Happy, Healthy Caregiver Podcast, the show where real family caregivers share how to be happy and healthy while caring for others. Now, here's your host, family caregiver, and certified caregiving consultant, Elizabeth Miller.
Hello, thanks for tuning in to the Happy, Healthy Caregiver Podcast, which is part of the Whole Care Network. If this is your first time listening and trying out this show, welcome. So glad that you are here. This show is produced bi-weekly to help family caregivers integrate self-care and caregiving into their lives. Each episode has an accompanying show notes page. We want to fast track you to the resources that could help you. So if you want more details about the topics, the products, and the resources we're going to speak about, or you want to see more related photos, you're going to find that all on the show notes page. So head over to the website, happyhealthycaregiver.com. Underneath the podcast menu, click the image or the episode number for today's show. We're also going to put the link to the show notes in your podcast platform's episode description, so you can easily find it there. If you're not on the Happy Healthy Caregiver email list, what in the world are you waiting for? Every Tuesday, you're going to get something in your inbox that's going to have something happy, something healthy, something care related. Plus, we're going to talk about upcoming events and special offers. So don't miss out on that. It's bit.ly/HHCE news to subscribe. I also don't want you to miss out on the cruise, the Self-Care at Sea cruise that we're doing this October. We have tried to remove as many of the barriers that we could think of that caregivers could have, giving you lots of notice and so that you can make a plan for your care recipient for the backup care. We have a fabulous trip planned on a Norwegian cruise line. It's a brand new ship called Aqua. We're going to some great destinations, Dominican Republic, the US and British Virgin Islands, the Bahamas, and I hope that you'll come and make memories with us. Make memories with me and some of the other care influencers that in this space. We're going to have a lot of fun on the cruise. You can see us as much or as little as you'd like. Invite all your friends and family if you'd like to have them join along. You can find out more at bit.ly/HHC Self-Care Cruise. I'd like to thank our episode sponsor, Crazy Compression. Do you ever feel like your feet and legs are exhausted by the end of the day? Or maybe you've noticed a bit of swelling after sitting or standing for too long? Well, I want to introduce you to Crazy Compression Socks. It's a fun solution to keeping your legs feeling fresh and energized. They aren't just any socks. They're designed to boost circulation, reduce fatigue, and make a serious style statement. Crazy Compression Socks combines top-notch support with bold, fun patterns that let you express your personality. Whether you're a nurse, a traveler, an athlete, a caregiver, on your feet all day, these socks will change the way you think about comfort. Head over to crazycompression.com, use the Happy Healthy Caregiver community code, which is HHC20, for 20% off of your order, and give your legs the energy they deserve. For this episode segment of What I'm Reading, well, sometimes I just want to get swept away in a psychological thriller. And The Housemaid by Frida McFadden did not disappoint. Just when you think you have it all figured out, there's going to be a new twist. It's a captivating 4-star read. I'm not going to talk a lot about it because I want you to be captivated as well and swept away. And there are more books in the series, but I'm going to give myself a little space between these reads, and I'm going to spread them out between some other genres of books I like to read. I'm going to link to this book on Amazon so that you can check it out. And then, of course, don't forget about the free Libby app where you can get free audiobooks and Kindle books and so forth with your library card. My favorite thing that I want to share with you is it's actually a place. It's called Chicago. My daughter Natalie has lived in Chicago now for a few years. She's a NICU nurse at Northwestern, and she's a city girl. She doesn't have a car, lives downtown, has made some fabulous friends. And I've been getting to know the city of Chicago with all the visits that I've been on. I've been in winter, I've been in summer. We try to focus on the outdoor activities in the warmer months and the indoor activities in the winter. And the city has so much culture, great views, nice people, and terrific food. I have eaten so well up there. And Natalie has been a great tour guide. She's really dove into all the things that she's wanted to do because her plan was never to live there, for many years. She plans to leave actually later this year and become a travel NICU nurse. So even if you don't have a friend or family there, I recommend you check out the city. It's worth adding to your must-see list. You're going to want to see the Bean. You're going to want to shop on Michigan Avenue. You're going to want to lay on the beach next to Lake Michigan and maybe take a little bit of plunge in the water. You're going to want to go to the Lincoln Park and check out the zoo there and take in one of the fabulous sporting events or explore the various cute little neighborhoods that have their own personality. I really did not expect to like Chicago as much as I do. Let's meet today's caregiver in the spotlight. Kitty Norton left her job as an NBC assistant editor in LA in 2016 to return to her hometown of Portland, Oregon, to walk, stumble, and crawl with her dementia mother to death's door. While doing so, Kitty authored the dementia caregiver blog, Stumped Town Dementia, writing tales of dementia life, which resonated deeply with readers around the world. After her mom's death, Kitty turned her storytelling talents to creating and directing the dementia family caregiver documentary, Wine, Women, and Dementia. The film honors this journey with her mother, increases awareness of the caregiver side of the equation in dementia, and celebrates family caregivers, letting them know they're not alone and are worthy of being seen, heard, and respected alongside their person living with dementia on this difficult road to the end of life. We explore how Kitty built the care community she needed, why caregivers often start care businesses, and how she prioritized social and emotional self-care during 24/7 caregiving. Plus, find out why duct tape might belong in your caregiver toolbox. Enjoy the show. Hello, Kitty. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast.
Hello, Elizabeth, and everybody out there. And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, this has been, some time coming, so I'm happy that we're here too. And we've done some lives together and some other stuff, but this is the first podcast that you've been on, Happy Healthy Caregiver. We always started out with something from the Happy Healthy Caregiver jar. I want to get your thoughts on this, Kitty. Let's see. It says, there's like 20 of them that want to come out. We'll just pick one of these. It says,
Sure.
Accept what is, let go of what was, and have faith in what will be. So these are all things that I've collected. Does this resonate with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is almost verbatim to what I tell caregivers who fall into that, I'm losing my person. And, I'm like, stop. What you need to learn how to do is celebrate who you've got next to you, is get ready for who's coming, and to just be happy at who's going to be there at the end, because eventually it's going to all be over. And that's
like the present. Let's focus on the present.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So, I love that.
You're wise. You're a wise woman. Well, I know you, but some people don't know you. And I know you quit your job to care for your mama, Gloria. But tell us, set the stage for us a little bit. Filmmaker, sure. Kitty, set the stage for us.
Yeah. So my mom was diagnosed with vascular dementia in 2010. And at the time, my father was going to be her primary caregiver. And he swore that he would do that and keep her at home until the day she died. Well, unfortunately, my father died rather suddenly in 2016, about mid-progression for mom. So I had started a new career and had moved down. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and I had moved down to LA because it was in the film industry. I was a assistant editor on a lot of different NBC shows. So
how cool.
Yeah, it was. And
It was like, was it your dream job and then you had to, or was
no,
getting,
my dream job was to become an editor.
okay.
And so I was working my way up to that and learning from all my editors. And the final show that I was hired on was the first season of This Is Us.
Stop it.
I know, but my father died that summer before post-production started, so I had to give up that gig.
Mm.
And that was hard. But I like to tell people, there's silver linings sometimes in some really strange places. LA had wonderful people. I was doing great in my career. I was getting really far really fast, but I needed to come home. The Pacific Northwest is where I just understand who I am. I
Hmm.
can breathe. I Everything about me is resonates in this place. So I always say that's the last gift my dad gave me was to
I've
say
never
I'm gonna
been
come
to
home.
the Pacific Northwest, but it's on my list and I'm going to sure look you up. And I've got other care friends out there as
Amy.
well. I know it would be amazing. I'd love that. So you
So
ditched the job, you went home. Then what
yeah.
happened?
My sister and I just took on co-care of my mom. And I moved in with mom. Mom and dad had a split level. So it was really easy for me and my boyfriend to kind of take over the basement. My sister works on the Oregon coast. She manages a destination restaurant on the Oregon coast.
Mm.
But she would come in for like 2 or 3 days a week and she would live upstairs with mom. And then she would go back to her work and her life. And I would go live upstairs with mom.
Okay.
So, it
Sharing
worked.
the care.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well. And of course, there was huge bumps. At one point, we were just at our wits' end and we put mom in memory care, and it turned out to be really hard, the hardest thing we'd ever done. So we brought her back home after 5 weeks. We're
Mm.
like, okay, memory care doesn't work for us. Get her back.
It's so hard because I think and people think that it's going to be easier for caregivers to do assisted living memory care, but it's a different
Yeah,
worry and ball of wax. Like it's
you're
still a big
still
role.
you're still a caregiver,
Mhm.
and it works so well for so many people. I am not bashing memory care or assisted living or any of that, but for us, it was more stressful having her away
Mm.
than having her with us.
And you
And
tried
then,
it. Like good for you for all
yeah,
for trying it. Like you don't know until you try it.
right.
And you gave it a good go.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the most expensive 5 week vacation I've ever had.
It is
Wow.
so expensive. When mom lived in assisted living for a while, and then she lived with my older sister for the last 6 years or 4 years of her life. I kept saying it was like we're buying a really nice used car every month, like a really nice used car.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
expensive, and memory care even more so.
Yeah. Mom was lucky because she didn't have really horrible behaviors. Because, that's the one thing you don't know until you're in this world is that if your person is struggling with some really aggressive behaviors, those prices just go up and up and up every month. And if it's really aggressive, you can't even get into some memory cares
Hmm.
until you're already paying, 14 to $19,000 a month because they just won't. You have to go to the places that will take them, and your options just narrow.
Do
It's
what
tough.
do we get paid more if we get angry people that we have to take care of? Like, yeah, my brother's not a whole lot of fun. I'm a support caregiver for him. He's got an intellectual and developmental disability, but I'm like,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be nice if we got more perks because they were more to handle? Yeah.
In Oregon, maybe I don't know about Georgia, but in Oregon, we don't get paid at all.
We don't get paid at all in Georgia. Yeah, some states, and I'll link to that in case people are like, "Oh, can I get paid as a caregiver?" Some states you can
Yeah,
different
yeah,
rules, or you can pay somebody, another family member or somebody to do care. But yeah, we're the same. We're the same
yeah.
as y'all. So how did that go, caring for Gloria? Like how long were you caring for her as a primary caregiver?
Um, so 5 years,
Oh
mom
boy.
died in March of 2021. And during that time, I think it started writing in the end of 2017. So I wrote a caregiver blog.
Tell me
And
more.
yeah, this was my self-care. I wasn't very good at self-care, but
Well, that's
writing
emotional
blog,
self-care.
oh, it was huge. And I don't even think I started it because I needed something creative.
Mhm.
Lexi was here either 2 or 3 days a week, and I could come downstairs and just write about the funny stuff and write about the horrible stuff and just do like, here's what a day in the life of dementia is like, get up, pick up poop, take the, get her in the shower, do this. She loves oatmeal. Milkshakes are great at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, just like go through. So it was really awesome for me. And I loved creating the images that I would use to kind of accompany and tell the story that has the words, but tell it in pictures too. I loved it. I made
Well,
little.
I read your blog early in those
Oh
days.
yeah, yeah. That's how we
Yeah.
met.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's called Stumped Town Dementia. It's still out there. We'll link people to that so they can, and yeah, it was you kind of stood out in this space. You know that, right? Like,
I couldn't find anybody who was telling caregivers what this was like, and I couldn't find anybody who wasn't mired in the tragedy narrative. And there is
yes.
enough tragedy, but there's also life, and there's also humor, and there's also, even in some of the worst parts, there's some really funny stuff that happens. And for us, for our family, we always had a good sense of humor, and the levity was probably my biggest tool in my caregiver toolkit.
Mhm.
So that doesn't work for everybody, but that's what it was for us. So I know I couldn't find anybody telling the stories like I was telling them.
That's super relatable. I mean, I even found when I first started writing on my blog, Happy Healthy Caregiver early days, and it actually wasn't even called that. It was called Savvy Sandwicher initially. But
I love that.
I was a little bit doom and gloom. My first couple posts, like they're still out there. Um, and I was literally like, I don't want to be this person. I'm a glass half full kind of gal. Like
Yeah.
this is not in my DNA. So I can appreciate that you wanted to have that voice. You basically created what you that wish existed for you.
Yeah, I did. And I had those posts too. I
Mm-hmm.
had those ones that were really, really tough. Like, I don't want my mom to wake up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do with that? What's that feeling like? But
It's real.
I also wrote about just the hilarious shit that happens. There's a lot of hilarious shit in dementia. Sorry,
Yeah,
everybody.
that's okay. Give us a taste.
It's
Give us
there.
something. Give us a taste of like the funny something funny that happened that um you were just like you can't make this shit up.
Well, one of my favorite stories actually I wasn't even there. It was my sister came home from taking mom to the mall, and they had been walking through Nordstrom's, and this woman had stuck some lotion on Lexi's hand, the little lotion and perfume ladies. And Lexi was like, "Oh, this is wonderful. It smells delicious. It's just great." And she did it to mom too, and mom just went,
Oh my goodness. Let me
"Get right
sample
up."
that. And I'm sure, there's no like having dementia, like, so interesting. And, a lot of being a dementia caregiver, like I got through your posts and stuff, is that it's a lot of trial and error. Like you've got to
Yeah.
kind of, you get a new problem every hour, every day. And you're like, okay, how are we going to address this one? And one of the ones I learned from you had something to do with, um, her wanting to escape out of the car, and you problem solve that. How did you
Yes.
problem solve that?
So mom had a green Dodge Caravan, and she went through a period where she was opening the door as we were driving. Like, we almost lost Mr. Bones, our little dog, Mr. Bones, in a kind of a traffic jam one day because mom was opening the door, and Barnaby's like, "All right, ready to
Time to
out."
go.
There's like 4 lanes of traffic. And it wasn't until I drive really fast. And I'll tell you what, you're in a green Dodge Caravan from like 1995, cops don't even see you.
Yeah.
And those things can haul. So I know I'd be driving across the mountains to get to my Aunt Jenny and drive my mom back. And I'd, make it there in 2 hours and 15 minutes, which was just unheard of. Well, mom decided to get out of the car one day while we were doing about 75 miles an hour. And that was when I was finally like, okay, we need to figure this out. And I can't remember what I tried until I finally landed on, I'm just going to duct tape the damn door up and just see if that works. And visually, mom could not perceive the gray of the duct tape against the kind of gray green of the door. So she never even
It's like
realized that,
camoed. Yeah,
yeah,
camouflage.
it was like not even there for her anymore. Phew. It's
And then
just
you're like, what next? I mean, duct tape really can do a lot of different things.
exactly. Who knew?
Yeah.
I had to make I called it the ghetto gate out of cardboard to stop mom from going down the split level stairs because she was getting so unsteady on her on her feet. So we had these huge, Amazon boxes that I duct tape all together and put over across. It was just
You do what you got to do.
duct
Yeah.
tape. It's great
Yeah.
too.
It does a lot of, and I know like going back to the blog, like you wrote it because it was an outlet for you, but what was kind of the unforeseen part of the blog that maybe you weren't expecting?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, of course, it's exciting when anybody reads your stuff or comments on it, but I didn't expect to make friends all over the world. I
Mhm.
didn't expect to have other caregivers. I didn't expect to create a community, and we were never huge. It was a small community. I think at the most we had like 500 people on our mailing list, but things would get shared. Um, and people would comment or people would email me and I was just like, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad this is helping you in your journey. We're all different. Stuff that we do isn't going to be perfect for you, and stuff you do is going to be perfect for others.
Right.
But let's just share what we're doing so everybody knows what they can kind of try, or it can, spark something in them. Like, that's not going to work for my household, but that gives me an idea of something that might.
Exactly.
And that was amazing to just have this support group that I didn't even know I was creating.
Community is everything. I mean, that's why on this podcast, we only talk to caregivers, real family caregivers who have been caring in the past or in the present, because they're the experts. I want to spotlight the
Yeah.
experts. And I love even on one of your websites, we're going to talk about the Wine Women and Dementia, the documentary, but you say until there is a cure, there is community.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when that came to me, I can't even remember if that was around the film or if I thought about that when I was writing. I'm like, that's perfect. That's exactly how I feel. We're not close to a cure. So what do we have instead? We have community. So
Mhm.
let's bolster our community because we are who we have. And I love it when all of us, either like influencers or creating.
Accidental influencer is what I call myself.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
When we inspire others to start telling their story, because if you start talking, you're going to become somebody else's support.
Mhm.
You don't think about that. At least I didn't when I started doing this or when I started going to forums and stuff like that. I just thought, oh God, I need answers. And instead I found, well, I did get answers, but I also found that I had answers for other people.
Right.
How great is that when you have just the world's worst dementia day? You couldn't make your person even crack a smile, but you gave another family caregiver somewhere in the world an idea of something to try and it worked for them.
Yeah.
It was like, it's so important to make sure to understand that you too, somebody's looking for you because somebody needs what you know too.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's a spectrum, right? And it's like you might be here, but there's somebody way back here. Maybe
Yeah.
like one little tip, one little thing could really just make a huge difference in their day. And just to be validated, frankly, like
Oh
this is
yeah.
hard. This sucks. Like I'm feeling it too. That's we do I just got off a daughterhood circle connection call earlier.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah.
Such a great organization.
Yeah, so been part of that one since 2017 and facilitating once a month. And I know one of your movie stars on Wine Women and Dementia documentary is a fellow daughterhood, Roseanne Corcoran, and
Yeah.
also a fellow Whole Care Network podcaster. Uh, so I feel like the best thing, frankly, out of caregiving, one of the best things has been the people that I've met, like the friends that
Absolutely.
I've made. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you making the friends, and then what happens? Let's get to the Wine Women and Dementia. How did the Wine Women and Dementia documentary come about?
Um, so there were, I mean, if I had the money, I would have traveled all over the world for the next 3 years, just bringing these people who had become so important to me a bottle of wine and a pizza, or if I'm in Britain, fish and chips or something, and just saying, if you open the door, I'm going to come in for a night and we're just going to talk. because we just need to process this. And I'm finding it so healing, and I think you will too. But I didn't have all the money in the world. What I did have were 5 very particular, specific caregivers who had become so important to me, and we had never met. Some of us had Zoomed, some of us had just met each other through social medias and exchanging emails and funny Twitter, support or Instagram or whatever. But these 5 always seemed to come out of the woodwork on one of my worst days. And then just make me laugh so hard about something that was going on in their life and forget what was terrible in mine. So I wanted them to know how much I appreciated that support. So before Mom died, I thought, when this is over, I'm going to get in a car and I'm going to go meet these people. If they're going to open the door again, I'm going to sit around and we're going to talk caregiver smack.
Yeah.
And after
I got to pause you there, because that's pretty smart of you too, to think like, because the stage after caregiving ends is its own caregiving stage. But you had a plan, like you had premeditated a plan that you didn't thought it would be great to give back and fun, but like it also gave you an identity.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think I realized it until well after it happened, was that I was looking for escape. When this is over, this is so intense and so beautiful and so brutal. On Mom's last breath, I want to get in the car and I want to drive away. And I didn't really think about it like that, but I think that's how this plan kind of came about. Like, I need to escape. I got to come back here and finish all the official aspects of somebody leaving this planet.
Which is a lot. Grief is exhausting.
Good Lord. But in the interim, I need to get out of here. I need to walk away from this house and stop and being this person for a while. So I contacted these people. Well, and then before I even did that, I thought, these conversations might be really helpful for other caregivers.
Yeah.
Why don't I get, maybe a camera guy and a sound person, or a camera woman and a sound person, and see what we got here. So I called everybody that I initially intended. I had a couple of backups that were also really important to me, but weren't like that top 5. But the top 5, everybody said yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. So we started, planned the production tour for September of that year. Everything happened really fast. Once I got the idea, it was like, this is go. I need these people.
Yeah.
I need to put this in place. Let's do this. I bought a used RV. I think it's a 97. Had a good motor, but everything else was falling to pieces. Got that all put back together, slapped Mom's face all over it with decals, and decided that was it. So
Barnaby Jones went through with you, your dog.
Bones, yes. Barnaby was
Mr. Bones.
My friend Bethy came up from LA because she was a screenwriter and they never have real jobs. So she went on the production tour with me. But we went to Seattle first. Allison Schreier was the first person that we did. And Seattle's only 3 hours away from me. So we drove up there, did that one in August. And then I came back to look at that footage and make sure this would be something that I would want to see. And it was. And I was like, it's on. We're doing.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. So that's what we did.
And shout out to Allison with Zinnia TV.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll link to that too. It's a dementia channel, streaming channel. Well, yeah, you came all around. I know you came through Atlanta, and I believe I even tried to like connect with you back then, but it just didn't work out. But it's I've loved the movie, so I got the pleasure of seeing it, I think a couple of years ago at the Care Colloquium. You came. Do you still have your RV, by the way?
I do, but she needs about $8,000 in repair because I named her the Gloria after my mother. Needs about $8,000 in repair. So all she really does now is sit out in the carport, and I have make sure
it's like a photo op.
The battery doesn't die.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Like making a movie and traveling, all of this it's not cheap, right? So, but you came through Roanoke, Virginia, and I went to the Care Colloquium. We met there, and we got to see some of the movie for the first time, and I was immediately hooked. Like, I'm not, not even technically a dementia caregiver, and I do think that you don't have to be a dementia caregiver to get a lot of value out of the Wine, Women, and Dementia documentary.
I don't think you need to be in the dementia space. I think the end of life journey, whether, it's your child succumbing to
Hmm.
cancer or it's your spouse with, a heart attack or a stroke, I think the journey is very similar. I think the feelings are very similar.
Yeah.
Maybe not
The overwhelm, the
yeah,
isolation,
yeah, the
the
guilt
stress, the guilt. Yes.
and the
Freaking
humor
guilt. Yeah.
and
The
the way you
humor.
get through it, with
Hmm.
community, with humor, with tears, with screwing up big time and forgiving yourself. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot in the film that just speaks to people who are in that space and people who are going to be in that space who
Yeah.
are like, wow, I see this on the horizon for myself or for my parents or
No one's escaping it. We're all going to be needing care or being a caregiver at some point in our life.
we're all
And
going to
many of
die.
us will probably, yeah. And more of us will be serial caregivers. Like, we're going to have to do this for more than one person. I know I've been collecting different care people for sure.
Yeah.
And I love that this gave you purpose. And then you did the film festival circuit, I know, for a while. And then something big happened earlier in 2024 where you had an opportunity for it to be on PBS.
Yes, yeah, that was so exciting. PBS has two distributors that they pull most of their stuff for if they haven't co-created it themselves. And we just sent the film in February of this year. At the end of March, we were notified that they were going to pick up the film. So we have a 3-year contract with PBS.
Amazing.
Chose to have the film debut on PBS for this last November because that's National Family Caregiver Month.
Yes. Yeah.
And we
Perfect.
spent the summer looking for, underwriters, people to help us because I wanted to cut the film down to an hour. So it's the full feature is 87 minutes, but I knew an hour-long film is much easier for programmers around the country to pick up and put on their schedules.
Yes. It
So
makes sense.
and one of the underwriters who says this is important and I want to make sure caregivers see it because I support caregivers is Happy Healthy Caregivers. So
Yeah, yeah. Delighted to be an underwriter of it. Like, I didn't even know what an underwriter was. First of all, you had to explain it to me. And also one of my fellow carepreneur friends, Deb
yeah,
Hallisey,
yeah.
for Advocate for Mom and Dad is one. And then I know you got another underwriter too. But
Care Scout, let's give a shout out.
Care Scout, yes. And I'll link to them too, Care Scout. The it was important for me to do it because it's advocacy is story sharing, frankly. Like, we are 53 million family caregivers in the United States, but we are Kitty and Elizabeth and Deb and
Right.
Kathy, Susan, whatever, and Bill. Like, so, and they need to share their stories as a form of advocacy so that these things become real and not just numbers. And so this podcast is frankly a form of care advocacy. So that was important for me to be a part of that. So that, first of all, I was excited because I already knew I liked it, and we had done like another virtual cafe where in Happy Healthy Caregiver where people
Yeah.
gave
I
people a
think that
chance
was
to
like
see it.
the first February that the film was out because I think you were helping
Yes.
promote, like some of our upcoming festival.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's
I wanted
awesome.
everybody to see it. So now it's like so exciting that people can go through the PBS app, even if their PBS channel doesn't carry it. And that, they might carry it in 3 years, but you have to watch it at a certain time. You can watch it whatever you want on the PBS app. So I'm excited to that people have more access to it because they want to see
Get
themselves on the screen.
We get notifications all the time about, if it's going to be airing. We've already reached 77% of the US market. So
Wow.
yeah, that's huge. With the amount of stations that have programmed it. So I'm sure that will kind of start to, go down. It's a 3-year contract, but now anytime there's a caregiver awareness date, like Friday, February 21st is National Caregivers Day.
Yeah, or
And March
Alzheimer's Awareness
3rd,
Month,
yeah.
or yeah.
So then it's kind of got to push out to these PBS stations saying, "Hey, do you want some content for these important,
Mhm.
awareness periods?" And it could be programmed anytime. So we're trying to track all of that. We have it on the website, so you can look on the website and get information.
We'll link to that too.
Yeah. So it's
So exciting. Well, now, I mean, it's like it's taken a lot of different, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of money, and you've had to kind of, fundraise and just be committed, just like caregivers. Like we're just have to like committed to the
yeah.
thing. So, but I'm curious, Kitty, like, you know, we met at the Care Colloquium. We met all these other people in the care economy space who are also, doing care advocacy, creating products, writing blogs. Most of them, if not all of them, have been family caregivers. Like, what is it? Why do we want to do this difficult journey of caregiving, and then we want like are still hanging around here? Like for me, it's been 10 years since my dad passed away, and then, a handful of 4 since my mom. Like why are we still here?
Well, I have a theory about that, and I'd love to hear what your theory is.
Yeah.
Tell you mine. So Allison Schreier in the film started Zinnia TV because she was so tired of coming in and seeing her husband just staring at Fox News in the memory
Hmm.
care. Roseanne started Daughterhood, the podcast, while she was still caring for her mother, because she needed an outlet, I think, kind of like me, and she wanted to help caregivers learn what she had learned. Then we had Veronica down in Dallas, and Veronica started her whole nonprofit that is specifically for caregivers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That now I believe they just celebrated their 5th year, and she's looking to expand that. But she was taking care of both her grandmother and her mother with Alzheimer's at the same time.
Yeah.
Even the cast members, Matt was now at Carallel. He was at caregiving.com. I think once you go through something so traumatic, you don't want people who are coming into this space behind you to go through the same thing. You don't want people to have to reinvent the wheel every single
Right.
time. Like, why
Right.
did I have to start from square one when there were decades of people before me who knew so much more about this journey because they had finished it? We
Mm.
weren't sharing our stories. I think social media has made a huge difference of how we can now share our stories so much more. But I think that goes, like when did Ronald McDonald House start? It probably started by some parents who, had to put their children to rest, and they wanted to make sure that the next set of parents were better supported than they
Right.
were, that weren't scraping and clawing for every piece of resource. I think that's true for any end of life journey. You can probably find someone who stays in that space to say, I don't want this to be as hard for the next group.
Right.
So I'm going to be
Right.
here. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to
Yeah.
try and make a difference. What do
I
you
agree with
think?
that. I do agree that is part of it. And I too started my business while I was still caregiving, and I had no business starting a business, and had thought about quitting it so many different times. Like just like this is hard. I'm just going to phone it in and not do this anymore. But still here, still still going at it. But I do think that that's part of it is the problem. Like let's make this mean something. Like more,
Yeah,
you're doing meaningful work by caring for another human being. But let's leave maybe a bigger mark, a legacy mark to make somebody's life, like you said, a little bit better. I also think it was an outlet for us during the time that we're doing it. It's like you needed that creative outlet. I didn't know that I needed some kind of creative outlet, but I needed an emotional outlet where first the blog helped me process the difficult
yeah,
and complicated emotions around caregiving, and then layering on the different things. And I was like, well, I like spotlighting caregivers, and I want to tell their stories because I don't necessarily have all the answers and the information, but I can maybe put them in the focus so that they can share that. So, but it is around the same theme of making somebody's life easier. And I think we have reap some self benefits from that too, because two things can be true at the same time. Yeah, so I think it's not stopping. There's more more people kind of coming and building their community and making their mark. And we got plenty of problems to solve here. Like there's 53 million family caregivers and growing, and that's just the US alone. And so many different conditions and, lack of respite and all of that. I think one of the common themes we certainly all have is the money part. Like, where's the money to help these people who are doing amazing stuff, you and I and all the other folks that we know, like elevate what they're doing. Um, Sometimes I get frustrated that there's these like big name organizations that maybe get all the money, but you're like, what are they actually freaking doing for family caregivers? Like they're getting the funds and some of them are doing stuff, but some of them I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit. And then there's these like grassroots, gritty people who are making things happen with very little,
Yeah,
frankly.
absolutely.
So I'd love for that gap to be closed.
Two things about what you just said. And you said this about the blog too. The first time I saw the film, even in its first rough draft, I realized I had just made the film I wish I had seen in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And this wasn't scripted. This was, all I did was go to these caregivers and ask the questions that I knew were the topics that were the most important to caregivers, that were the most confusing. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a teaching moment, but there's so much you can get out of it that you
Right.
can learn from. But it's not like us sitting around going, okay, so now when, a UTI comes into your life, this is what you do. It's none of that. It's
No.
telling our stories, and you can glean from that.
It's like when your loved one is wacky and you can't figure out why, it might be a UTI.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. When my mom was like, she claimed my dad was cheating on her, one of the UTIs episodes. And like, yeah, their personality just completely can alter.
I know.
It can so much stuff. Like we've
It's shocking
become,
to me.
experts in that.
I agree. In fact, I just was having a conversation a couple of days ago with another care influencer, and we were talking about how I think the whole world got caught with their pants down when it came to dementia and a lot of aging situations, because we've all known the baby boomers were going to hit,
Yeah. Now it's 12,000, I think, every day turn age 65.
Who
Yeah.
were the people 30 years ago, 20 years ago saying, hey, while you have all these resources for a cure, and while you're spending all that money, shouldn't we have a backup plan in case we don't have the cure for cancer or we don't have the cure for dementia? Where are the resources for the people who are going to be helping the people who are moving on to their next adventure? And that was where we were just left absolutely
with their pants down, like you said.
Like people
well, and
think about it. And I get really frustrated with the bigger organizations because I think even now sometimes they are so, I think this is what influencers bring to the conversation. We're the boots on the ground, and we're not beholden to any larger organization or group that tells us what we can and can't talk about or be PC about. We're the ones who are going, wow, poop's going to be part of your future.
Yeah, caregiving is messy. Yeah.
So I get frustrated that sometimes they aren't supporting more people who are really giving out the true information. But I also understand they've got their lawyers, they've got their, ethics.
I didn't think about it. Maybe I'm glad. I mean, I know I didn't become a nonprofit because I didn't want to do the paperwork and have the board and do all of that and have more autonomy. So I like that reframing. Like, oh, look at me. I get to do it the way I want to do it and talk about the things that I want to do without.
Yeah. And I think about that with the film, because it's like we didn't have anybody staring us down and saying, you can't really talk about how you pulled your mom out of memory care. That's not gonna, the memory care people aren't gonna like it,
Yeah. Well, that's what happened.
I know.
So, I mean, we did as pulled one out of one assisted living to another. Yeah.
What I don't like is the part where, okay, I don't know how long I can stay in this care space because I can't generate revenue. So that's the downside to it. What am I not going to be able to impart to new people because they can't afford to, because this didn't turn into a paying job as I've strategized to try and get it there. And that may change, but that's the downside. Like, completely open.
Yeah, you deserve to be paid. Like, we got to make a living. We got to like make a living. I mean, hopefully this experience will elevate you to something, your next dream job that you want. But if you want to stay in this space, which you're a valuable person in this space, like let's help these people, help me. Like, and I've had to kind of remodel my business model over the years. Like I don't think any business model that is, I mean, it's harder. I think it's a harder business model if you're trying to get money directly from families because they are already paying so much out of pocket for the respite, for the backup support, for the supplies, for all of it, for their therapy appointments. So like, asking them for one more thing, I think is a hard business model. And that's kind of what I tried initially. And then it wasn't until I reframed it to say, okay, who can pay me? Who can pay me to help caregivers? Okay, employers can pay me to do speaking. Different organizations that way. Oh, this person wants to advertise on my podcast or my newsletter because I have accidentally built this, influencer type of space. Like, okay, pay me for that. Like, so, but it's tough. And I meet new people all the time who are trying to get into this space. And part of me is like, run away. But then, but it's kind of a little bit of a part ministry, part business.
It is for me. And I'm so passionate about it because I think not just me, but the community that was attracted to my writing and is attracted to this film because they too are feeling the same thing. We can't live 24/7 in tragedy. That may be great for your fundraising, but please just give us a break.
Yeah.
Can we start hearing the more positive stories and not to Pollyanna this at all? This is the hardest thing you will probably ever do, is to help somebody to the end of their life. I'm suspecting it's going to be hard. That trip is going to be harder than me getting to my own end of the life.
Yeah.
But my dream now is to take the blog and turn it into a half-hour dramedy. That's what I would love if I could get funding.
The Seinfeld of caregiving, or
even just to like get a script written for a pilot and see if I could sell that. Or if I can't sell it, pull together a crew and get maybe the first 3 episodes done on a YouTube series. And then see, instead of a half hour, make it a 15-minute. I go back and I read those blog posts and I see the entire episode.
Yeah.
Because they're so personal and there's such kind of a
it's
funny
raw. It's
Jane Austen too, kind of that absurdity of human nature and human disease. And it says a lot about who we are as people sometimes when we go through these. And I think I a lot of that in just writing about the absurdities that we had within ourselves that we met dementia with,
I mean, I've got several episodes when you run out of your own content. Like, I'm literally thinking, like, I got called home from work one time because my dad was on a blood thinner and they both had mobility issues. And they're like, when are you going to be home, Elizabeth? I'm on my way, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, your dad scratched this mole on his back and now he's bleeding, profusely because he's on a blood thinner. But don't worry, I stopped it with my poise pad. And I went home and there's like poise pads stuck to my dad's back. And then I just spent 6 hours in the urologist with my brother on Friday. And that was a whole adventure that, I got to see parts I hadn't seen before and have some trauma from that. And he eventually peed out a bladder stone, like a large bladder stone.
Holy smokes.
So like, you can't make this shit up, like literally. So how do we support you on this dramedy series, like the next thing? Like, or how do we support you now? How do we support you later?
Well, for one, we have a store.
Yes, you have some fabulous products.
Wine, Women, and Dementia t-shirt on, which I'm sending you stuff. So,
I love
but
it. I
there's
love it.
the DVD and the Blu-ray are for sale if anybody still has those. Um, I'm going to probably release the film. I think I might release it for February 21st, National Caregivers Day. I think I'm going to release it for streaming. It won't be like the Netflix or the big dudes, but it'll be
Yeah.
an online streaming service that people can
Like,
access the film and
yes.
buy a ticket and watch it at home with their friends. Yeah, get a
Amazing.
t-shirt, get a cup, get a mug, get anything you can
Yeah.
go to the store and purchase. And I'm still, I'm kind of getting to the end of my rope, but I'm not giving up yet. And I'm still working on partnerships. If you have a company, just like, if you have a company that's looking to make connections with their caregiver employees and
Yeah.
make them feel, as valued as they should be, I've got a film for you to bring in and let your caregivers know that you understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. Have a great discussion about it.
Yeah. So, I've got partnerships I'm still trying to make. I'd love
Maybe
to see
there's
the
an
film.
opportunity. Like I have a corporate package that I put together. Maybe that's one of the offerings that I add to that. We have to talk about that.
Oh, that would
Like
be
I do
really
an
interesting.
annual corporate package for some of my clients where
Yeah.
it has like support and education, but listen, I'm not the dementia expert. So, and sometimes they are definitely looking for that. So let's definitely
Yeah,
talk
let's
about
talk
that.
about that and see if that maybe that's an issue. I would or something we can put together. I would love to see the film cut up like this because the film is not just caregivers talking. It's a whole road trip.
Yes.
And I'd like to just pull some of those caregiver stories and say, look, you're training, people who are going to be working in ADRCs, people who are out there openly trying to support caregivers.
Mm.
I've got a set of 10 clips that are going to show you and help you train these people to let them know where caregivers are
Yeah,
at when they show
train
up.
them. You can market to them. You've got a product you're trying to market. How are you going to learn about your people? Watch this film, learn more about what dementia caregivers are really living and looking like.
So that
Um,
would be cool to get to like maybe some government, you know, we did so well. Wisconsin ADRCs started with 2 screenings booked, I think last February. We're still booking screenings. Almost
wow.
every ADRC,
Go
every
Wisconsin.
county I know has booked this film because they want their caregivers to see it. I'd love to get to the state
Like the
director.
AA, the area agencies on aging. Is that
Yes,
what?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They're sometimes called different things for different states,
Yeah,
but
your caregiving expo, your this
right.
or that, like all of that.
Get to
The
those
sky's the limit.
directors and say, "Hey, we've got this film. Let's make it available to all of the people in your aging services that could utilize
Yes.
it for the next 2 years, and let's talk about what that looks like. And we need the funding, and you need these
It's a
stories."
win-win.
So yeah,
Win-win-win.
yeah.
Love that. Well, I mean, normally I flip and talk about self-care, but we've talked about self-care. With community is self-care. Your writing is emotional self-care. The all the friends that you've made, and certainly laughter being a big part of your self-care. I do have to ask you a couple questions from the Just for You Daily Self-Care Journal. So,
Oh no, a quiz.
first question: how do you celebrate your personal success? Like you've had success. What do you do to celebrate it?
It's usually with friends. My favorite thing to do is to, see my boyfriend's face light up when I say, because he knows how much of a struggle this is,
Yeah.
in his own way, but to say, dude, we got PBS,
Yeah.
or to go to my friends who are like, did you hear from PBS yet? No, not yet. That means a no. They're never gonna blah blah blah.
Yeah. And they're
Just
cheering you on. I love that. I'm so glad you have a
have them.
supportive boyfriend. Same. I'm like, I booked another client or a corporate client, same thing. So you got to have your people who will cheer you on for sure. Um, how about, let's ask it this one. What has surprised you about your life so far?
That I've even made it this far.
Seriously?
I'm a little rough and tumble Portland Northwest girl. I'm like, whoa, how did I live this long? That's shocking. Um,
You got more to
I
do. You got something more to do.
yeah, I've had a very small, amazing life, and I'm very grateful
Hmm.
for that.
I love that. I love that. How do people learn more about you, stay in touch, support you? Like, where's the best places to find you?
Yeah, winewomenanddementia.com is the film's website, and we've got the trailer on there. We list, we're still doing a lot of community screenings. Um, although December or right now is always pretty slow. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We're recording in December, but yeah, coming out in February.
Okay. So we list community screenings around the states. We're still looking to see what we can do both overseas, even just Canada above us, Mexico below us. That's another thing I'd love to get funding for is I'd like to do a lot more translations and start doing this, to Japan, to Malaysia, South Africa, up to Finland. I'd like to be able to see where else this film can really connect with caregivers around the world. Where was I? Oh, so you can follow us on Instagram, winewomenanddementia.com, to see where it's screening, to get information about the film, resources. I've got a great resources page of all the things that especially helped me, but then just everything that I find that is super cool, I will go back on that resource page and be like, wow, I'm out of the game 24/7 now, but boy, this looks awesome for new caregivers. And Facebook, and I'm
YouTube.
YouTube. Yes. Got a YouTube channel.
We will link to all of them. Yeah, because everybody has their places that they like to hang out. And then I know you're a connector. So like you said, connecting them to the resources that again you wish that you had, creating the community that you wish you had. So grateful for our conversation today, Kitty, and like cheering you on, like if I had the more money, I'd keep putting it on you. So, yeah,
I'm cheering you on too. I am so proud of all of the people that you've become my friends, and
yeah, we're gritty. We're
and
gritty people.
yeah, and just we stay here, even though there's sometimes to our own detriment, but we're here to make things better.
Amazing. Yes. Well, love you to pieces, and we're gonna, of course, keep in touch. And I'm just excited that this is going to reach more people that it can potentially help. So hope it helps you who are listening, and then hope that you share it to somebody else that can help them. The podcast, Kitty's documentary, all of it. So thank you so much, Kitty.
I'm in Atlanta seeing my crazy friend Nicolette. You and I are going to get together.
Let's go. You can stay here. I've got a place for you. I don't know if Nicolette lets you stay with her, but you're certainly, yeah, you can stay here. We'll love to have you. Amazing. Take care of yourself, Kitty.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Hello, podcast listener. If you're caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's or dementia, you don't want to miss All's Authors podcast, Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia. I'm your host, Marianne Shuko, a registered nurse, author, and dementia daughter. In each episode, I interview one of our 300-plus authors about their personal dementia story and why they chose to write about it, sharing intimate details and painfully obtained knowledge to help you on your own journey. We share a variety of stories across all diagnoses and from a range of caregiving experiences. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform and the Whole Care Network. Remember, you are not alone. One can sing a lonely song, but we chose to form a choir and create harmony. Find us at allsauthors.com. See you soon.
Thanks for joining us today on the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast on the Whole Care Network. As always, show notes that accompany today's episode can be found on my website, happyhealthycaregiver.com. Just look under the podcast menu for today's episode image, and that will take you to the page with the links and information we spoke about today. You'll also find other resources on the website, along with links to purchase the Just For You Daily Self-Care Journal. When you purchase from my website, you'll get a signed copy and for a limited time, free shipping. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, consider subscribing to the show on your podcast platform. It really helps other family caregivers find the podcast, and you'll automatically receive our bi-weekly shows in your podcast listening queue. Maybe while you're subscribing, consider leaving a 5-star rating and review, or just simply talk it up on your social channels. Let's stay connected. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Happy Healthy Caregiver. And until we meet again, please take care of you.
This is the Whole Care Network. helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.